All right. So I think we have everyone here. We have the BankSocial team. And welcome everybody to this webinar. It's going to be first of quite a few where we get the leadership team together to talk about something that is important to all of us here that are tuning in, and an opportunity for everyone to ask questions, participate, and hopefully we're able to answer some questions today about payments. So today we're going to be going into real-time rails, tokenized settlements, and cross-border capabilities. We have Becky Reed here from BankSocial, John Wingate, Andy Fogel, and Liz Winninger. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. And anytime during this, you guys are more than welcome to send over questions. We will have a QR code that's going to be in the top right. So make sure to send them in. So without further ado, I'm Sarah Kadar. I'm the director of marketing here. So I'm going to kind of be moderating and going through, but I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. And we can start, I think, Liz, this is the first time you're joining us, so on camera. So if you want to go first,
Sure.
let's start
Yeah.
with Liz.
Yeah. I'm Liz Winninger. So I've been with Bank Social for a couple months now. I've been in financial services for well over a decade. Before coming to Bank Social, I led a shared resources QSO, a very large QSO. And I'm here at Bank Social because I love what we're doing. And I love that we're creating tech that is accessible for credit unions and banks and just finding innovative ways that we can do that. So thank you.
Amazing. And Andy, you want to go
Hi.
next?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to meet you guys. I'm director of sales here at BankSocial. Been in the like Liz, I've been in the credit union space for a long time, and done about everything you can in the credit union, everything from collections to lending to the CEO of a couple credit unions here in Iowa, where I still live. Been at BankSocial about a year now, and really love the way that we're innovating and changing. Um, uh, Not only payments but crypto and investments and everything else for credit unions, and bringing that technology to credit unions. Sometimes when credit unions are operating on very old technology, so it's great to bring that new member experience right to their members.
Amazing. And I think we lost Sean for a second. Becky?
Hi, I'm Becky Reed. I'm on John's slide. You wanna put my slide? His slide is amazing, but I'm not John. Um, John actually just released an amazing book called Quantularity. I hope everybody gets it. So I'm Becky Reed. I'm a former credit union CEO, 28 years in the credit union space. I'm a decentralized finance enthusiast. I've always believed that cryptocurrency was a disruption to the traditional payments ecosystem, and we're actually starting to see the beginnings of that disruption now. And I've been with Bank Social since 2023. John and I met in 2022. I'm a credit union girl. He's crypto guy, and so I'll hand it over to him now.
Yeah, I can't tell if you guys can see me or if I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Am I in a
We're
frozen
frozen.
state? All right, I'll try to fix that in a second, but I'll just go through who I am. But yep, having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll figure it out here in a second. Yep, I'm John Wingate, as Becky said, um, the founder and CEO of Bank Social. Got together with Becky early on in our evolution, and have continued building evolutionary systems for the credit union space and financial institutions worldwide. And really excited today to give you guys some insights into what's happening around the world, what's happening here domestically, and how we're helping financial institutions, namely credit unions, take advantage of the new capabilities emerging in the space.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump in. A lot of you received an email with a QR code to send in questions. So at any point, you guys can send over. If you're on LinkedIn or X, feel free to just send your questions in through the comments. But just to give you kind of an overview, we're going to start out with where we are now, kind of the payments landscape, and I'm going to take some of the questions that we've gotten in and ask some of our leadership here to answer those questions for you, but you can send them in at any time. We'll go over the real world impact and kind of how this affects us now, and then what this means for you. So there's some actionable items that you all can kind of take with you. Again, feel free to comment any of your questions or send them in. So let's get in. Okay, so kind of starting where we are, I think everybody knows real-time payments from a customer standpoint, from your member standpoint, are very, very important. And right now, it's basically for I think everyone, real-time settlements and ACH is kind of what we're looking at in the growth there. I'm going to kind of ask some questions about that landscape, and after we're done, I'm going to be able to send you guys this deck. So I'm going to skip over these questions and start with one of our first questions. So what defines real-time payment, Rail, and how does it differ from ACH? Becky, if you can answer that question for us.
Real-time payments use the ISO 20.22 messaging framework and are literally real-time. So a real-time payment, whether it be from the clearinghouse or from FedNow, actually goes right into the member's account immediately instead of a batch process like ACH is, right? So ACH requires files that have to be imported into the core. Somebody has to work exceptions and somebody has to press a button in order for things to post. And so ACH generally posts anywhere from 1 to 3 days, whereas an RTP or a FedNow payment posts in seconds. And yay, John is back. Now we can see you.
Yeah, you're moving.
But now we can hear you.
Now it's actually working. Yeah, there we go.
Yes,
All right,
okay.
we're good to go now.
Okay, amazing. So for this next question, I'm going to, John, actually, I'll give you this question. So as far as BankSocial's tokenized liquidity network, how does that improve on existing real-time systems?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge we see in real-time systems as we were innovating through this is real-time systems still lack the capability of having visibility into the entire network. And so when you look at fraud mitigation, fraud detection, pattern recognition, with the advancement of AI, with the advancement and the cost reduction in the ability to utilize pattern recognition and machine learning, the ability to have a private tokenized liquidity network where you can do instant settlement real time, peer to peer, whether that's a person sending money to each other from a credit union to a credit union, or a credit union member who's got a loan at another credit union who's servicing and paying that loan back. The ability to not only settle in real time for fractions of the cost that it would be done on any other network in existence, the ability to monitor and have a full visibility into the entire network. I won't go too much into some of the stuff we're already seeing and some of the enhanced capabilities, how they're resulting in additional fraud capabilities and additional fraud reduction capabilities. But certainly, we are seeing things where a network of credit unions, for example, in Texas, who are settling between each other all the time. We see a lot of our credit unions across the country. When you look at your top 20 or your top 40 settlement endpoints where you're doing ACH to or where you're doing other payments to, those credit unions being in this liquidity network and part of this liquidity network now get to take advantage of not only the real time, low cost, fractions of the cost of any other settlement network, but also the benefits of all this AI detection, fraud detection, network monitoring that doesn't, outside of this ecosystem, does not exist in any other payment space. And then you tie in the interoperability with other payment networks. So by joining this liquidity network, by joining this tokenized network, you are not inhibiting yourself from being interoperable with every other. I think, Becky, you were just talking about RTP, FedNow, crypto rails. The really great thing about this tokenized network is the interoperability with any other payments network in existence, including some of the new age crypto rails that we're seeing with stablecoin. The Genius Act has just kind of allowed for a quantum leap. And I put this background up here, and Andy has his perfect background for this, but we're really seeing a quantum leap in the capabilities that are being offered by these network settlement systems. And so as those continue to enhance and as those continue to broaden, we see a tokenized network like this that brings all those security mechanisms, the lower costs, the ability to reduce or eliminate fraud in peer-to-peer settlements or bank-to-bank or FI-to-FI settlements, but also be interoperable with those existing systems is critical to staying effective and efficient in the future state of payments.
Great. Okay, so going into kind of what this means for credit unions, Liz, I'm going to give you this question. So why should credit unions adopt these technologies now?
Well, I think so. It's a great question because a lot of the words that get thrown around, especially being new to BankSocial and new to kind of the payments space where I came from, like shared resources, the people, really people focused. There's a lot of words that get thrown around that we're like, what is blockchain? And I make fun of myself often here because I'm constantly feeling like I've got it, and then I'm falling off of that cliff again and realizing I have a lot to learn. For our members, they're doing it even more than that. They don't care if it's called P2P, A to A, RTP, all these different lingos and languages that we have. They want to get their money to the person they want to get the money to, or wherever they want to get it to, and they want to do it in a certain amount of time. They want to be able to choose when. If they can wait a couple days, great. And we've all seen the success of, early postings of our paychecks because members need those funds earlier. So it's the same kind of concept there, where all the words that get thrown around, when you boil it all down, it's giving our members access to their funds more quickly, or the people who need their funds more quickly globally, and doing it at a speed that we never thought was possible. Or maybe you guys thought it was possible, but before I joined, I didn't know this was possible. And so it's really,
and not only that, but credit unions or members are already using these technologies, but outside of your institution. And so we talk specifically about payments and how fast payments move and instant payments and the ease of use. They're doing it already. I talked to a credit union CEO not too long ago that said, well, when I see adoption, when we see more of it happening, then we'll look at it more. But he's missing the point. There's already, millions of these transactions happening on a daily basis, but members have to download or use another app, or you're training those members to do so outside of your ecosystem already. And so what we're talking about isn't brand new technology. It's not, hasn't been used anywhere else. Your members are already doing this. We're just talking about bringing those things back to provide a more holistic experience for your members.
And how do we do that? The overlying question, the overarching question was not how do you do that technically and move a money as fast as possible for the lowest cost, but the real question is, the feedback that we got for years was faster payments, faster fraud. And I think in every other equation, that is true. A lot of the payments providers that are doing this, most of the payments providers that are doing this are doing it as a rail. But in today's day and age, with the availability of the technology that's capable of being deployed alongside of a payment, it no longer is the case. You can stop. We've got cases where we have seen fraud and stopped fraud and found entire networks of fraud people in cities and in areas where your traditional payment networks cannot do this type of real-time analysis. And so along with faster payments, we eliminated the uptick of the faster fraud that came with it. And I think that's one of the more important components of these newer payment systems, is being able to keep up with the fraudsters. But they're coming anyway. Whether you stay on old rails or whether you get on new rails, they're here anyway. And they're actually able to attack the old rails faster because of the lack of visibility, because of the lack of interconnectivity, because of the lack of visibility across that whole network.
Awesome. So that kind of brings us to a few of the stats that you guys got a preview of earlier. But so only one out of every $8 collected through those platforms that you guys just spoke about are actually returning to the primary institution. So they're going out, they're not coming back in. And then, this is a very recent report. 70% of consumers expect the instant transfers to be standard feature. And then as we go into the next generation, and basically what we're looking at is this customer base, payment speed is a top priority for them when they're choosing where and who they bank with. So these are all really important notes. And I think it segues really nicely into the next round of questions where we're going to go into what we're doing.
Well, before we go there, I think Becky says something great a lot, which is we're all Amazon influenced by the Amazon culture. Everybody expects what they want when they want it. Liz, you mentioned that a little bit. Andy, you mentioned that as well. And so there is no longer a if or a when. It's a expectation that exists with everybody now, which is why if everybody goes and looks at their transactional history, they're going to see massive outflows to Cash App, massive outflows to WhatsApp, Cash App, Venmo, all the usual suspects, and it's an expectation nowadays.
Yeah, the phrase that I say is your members' best digital experience is now their minimum expectation.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, so going in, as we're talking about real world impact, I kind of want to go into those pilots the tokenized liquidity pilots. Can we talk a little bit about that? So, John, you mentioned it earlier. So, Becky, can you share a little bit of those reports of what's happening with these network pilots with the credit unions and financial institutions that are participating?
Sure. So it's in a conception still. Doesn't mean that it's not built or it can't be used or it's going to take years and years to get there. But we're still gathering the participants that want to be involved. There are truly 24 or so that have actually reached out to us to ask us to participate in this. And so we're in the process of gathering those folks together and figuring out the best way to pilot this. I believe that credit unions, most credit unions, so you have some fast movers, these 25 or so that have already kind of reached out and expressed interest, are ready to try something now. All of them and every credit union, if you look at your data, you're going to see payments, mostly ACH, going to other credit unions. Most people have multiple credit union accounts. I have my checking account at one credit union. I have my loan at another, my car loan at one credit union. I have my house loan at another credit union. And so ACH payments are going out to those. And there's a cost to those payments, right? It's much, much more than just the cost of the ACH itself, but it's also the cost of all the fraud that happens on the ACH rails, all the labor that is required to approve those transactions, post those transactions, look at exceptions, run reports, all of those things are add to the cost of every single ACH. And so these credit unions are like, wow, well, if we can just move money between ourselves and settle up periodically, that kind of looks a lot like what corporate credit unions existed to do back in the day when we were unable to do those things through the Fed. And so now we can do it ourselves. We don't have to wait for somebody else to come and do it for us. We can do it ourselves. But I think once credit unions actually see, when we complete the pilot, we publish the results, and you can talk to your peers who have actually done this and seen that it is better. Many credit unions are still kind of going, I don't understand. Really, I understand what you're saying about fraud. I get that, but how does that happen? And is this a real thing? Believe me, it is 100% real, but many credit unions will kind of wait and see real results before they move forward. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, and I just want to add some clarity on that too. The peer-to-peer payment network, the Fi-to-Fi payment network, we do some tokenization already of the transaction data on chain. So there's no theory behind what we're doing. We're already doing this with financial institutions. The expansion into the next set of financial institutions is what we're talking about. The next 30 or 40 that are going to come on to the platform. And so what Becky's talking about is certainly, there's certainly some things that are always going to be built and innovated on, but the ability to move money right now through your tokenized, components of this already being tokenized is already in production. It provides that traceability, that trackability, but there are evolutions coming of these networks that we are staying on top of. But this is being done right now. I mean, we've got a handful of credit unions on the real-time rails right now, Becky. We tokenize those payments onto public ledgers, and so all this, we won't name the ledgers or the systems that we're using just to be respectful of all the other ledgers and systems out there. But it is multi-rail, it is multi-ledger, it's multi-payment capability, all working now. I think, how many credit unions do we have active on our payments hub, Becky? It's like 5 or 6 active on the payments hub.
Yes, in
Yeah.
different iterations, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So just to clarify, we have the payments hub. We're talking about the next evolution. And Andy, I wanted to ask you to kind of to take that even a step further. Can you let us know how this handles cross-border and global payments as well?
Yeah, this is one of the areas that has not been innovated on much really until we did something about it here last fall. If you're thinking specifically of cross-border, so I'm sending money to a friend or family member overseas, let's say in Mexico, for instance. The traditional way to do that has been through wires. And we talk to credit unions all the time that say they're sending out dozens or sometimes hundreds of wires internationally per month. And the member, not only is that very time consuming for the credit union, and it costs the member a lot of money, sometimes 50, 75, I've heard as much as $95 to send an international wire. And the credit union's not just doing that because that's a form of revenue for them or a form of non-interest income. They're doing that because it's very manual, it's very labor intensive. Sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 people at the credit union have to touch that transaction before it goes out. And then when we're talking internationally, it could take minimum hours to get there, but in most cases, days to settle into that receiver's account internationally. And so what we've done, and that obviously creates a financial hardship. It also creates in some cases, in some parts around the world, it creates a safety concern for the receiver who's going to the bank or the Western Union to pick up that money. But what we've done is we've eliminated the manual part. We've eliminated the safety concern for members. We've eliminated the time that members have to wait or receivers have to wait to get that. And now it can be done with a click of a button anywhere, sent just about anywhere in the world in seconds to minutes. And so we've got a number of different ways to do that. But just like we're concerned with your member experience and them being able to do that when they want it from where they want it, we're also concerned about the receiver's experience anywhere in the world. So they can choose to receive that in a number of different ways. They can choose to receive that direct to bank or via card or even via crypto currency in many places around the world. And so really it's not only about a solution like this isn't not only about the ability for your member to have a better experience, and we certainly want to do that, but it's also an efficiency thing for the credit union and creates less room. Anytime you get more humans involved in the process, it creates more room for error, right? And it creates more time and ineffectiveness. And so we've eliminated all that and really brought a solution to the member and to the end receiver, wherever they're at in the world, to be able to do that.
All right. So, Becky, I want to ask you, there's a question about kind of the regulatory considerations that come with all of this. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
Well, at the end of the day, it's just a payment. A payment is a payment is a payment. And it's going through a regulated financial institution. And as long as you partner with a third party like BankSocial that is also a regulated institution. We have to follow the same rules that financial institutions do, to be AML compliant and BSA compliant and all of those things. We have to look at OFAC. So a payment rail requires payment compliance, and our regulators understand that. And so the solutions that you put into your financial institution need to make sure that they comply with all of the existing regulations. And what John was talking about, that is absolutely true, that I have seen with my own eyes, that the capability to reduce fraud is unprecedented in this space, absolutely unprecedented. And when I saw it with my own eyes, I was like, oh my goodness, wires will be the first to go. I honestly believe that wires will be the first to go because of the labor intensity that Andy just talked about. It's a painful process for anybody. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, okay? You can be doing it from Europe or Latin America or the United States. It doesn't matter. It's a painful process. It takes 72 hours sometimes. The person on the other end might have to go to a Western Union and have actual physical money they walk out with in a dangerous part of town. I mean, it's just not a great experience. And so now, with digital wallets, people anywhere in the world have the opportunity to hold a digital dollar. That's unprecedented. That's amazing. That is a human rights achievement that allows people globally to be able to participate in the financial institution of the U.S. dollar. I mean, it's that's something that is just mind-boggling. And we here in the United States, I think, take for granted a lot of times because we already are in the ecosystem of the US dollar, right? We use it every day. And the functionality that this gives us from a risk mitigation, from fraud, is unprecedented. So when you talk about compliance, 100% compliance is part of this, and it is absolutely something that comes along with it.
And it enhances, I think, Becky, just you said that already, but I want to underscore that is the enhanced ability to do compliance here. It's unprecedented, to Becky's point. When we do the kinds of analysis on the money movement that we can do on these networks, it's just incredible. And then, Andy, to underscore a couple of the things you said as well, our ability to move money direct into an existing bank account here shortly in the EU and in places like Mexico. We're seeing people who want to hold the dollar, and what our network gives the your financial institution and even the person overseas. Like, this is a real, I'm gonna talk about a real scenario right now. One of our employees sends his mom dollars, tokenized dollars, and she holds those tokenized dollars in a digital wallet, right? Could be the BankSocial wallet. Those dollars sit at a credit union, and then she only uses them when she wants to use them to buy milk or to buy groceries. And because it's all real time, real settlement for a very low fee, people are de-risking themselves from local currencies. And those deposits stay for longer periods of time at the institution. They don't go to a Cash App. They don't go to a Venmo. They don't go to all these other apps because they don't need to anymore. The intermediary, I gave a talk a few months back where somebody from the crowd questioned me on really how much more efficient are these payment systems. And I said, have you ever tried to open an e-commerce store and go through the process of setting up all the different things that you need to do to take a dollar from a consumer? And then have you ever looked at how that can now be done with a stable coin? When I was down in Bolivia, none of the stores in the airport, in the international airport, took anything except for Tether, USDT. No credit card payments, no local currency payments, no other payment except for Tether. But what was even more amazing is that even not having any Tether, it was very easy for me to get a little bit of Tether with my credit card, with my bank account, with whatever, from whatever country I was from, because I still had my phone with me, and I could get those tethers and spend those tethers almost like a credit card. So the way the world is changing, the way this is giving the international community the flexibility to hold the dollar is really it's mind blowing.
And I want to mention too stablecoin, because I mean this is a popular topic with everybody. Stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency, okay? So cryptocurrency is not a bad word. Stablecoin is just a stable token that is backed by fiat currency. And like the U.S. dollar, which the Genius Act has brought into a legal being here in the United States and regulated being here in the United States, but $4 trillion a month globally in stablecoin volume, guys.
And Becky, that was really before those numbers are before the
Yes,
Genius Act passed.
correct.
Wait until we see the next quarter and what it happens in the next quarter.
Yes.
Interoperability of money, quantum value exchange is here. It's here. And it's only going to grow at a faster, more exponential rate. The existing rails,
Yeah, what he said.
credit card providers, uh, starting to understand that and starting to um, change their business models significantly to incorporate these types of ecosystems and rails. And so it's the perfect time to position yourself for this proliferation of payments.
Nice. This is perfect. So really quick before we move on, I wanted to put this up on screen since you guys did mention the pilot program. We're going to send this after, but there's a QR code here just in case. And then we had one question that came up. We talked about Europe and Mexico. Is there plans for other countries as well? Like globally, we're looking at, someone mentioned India, but just in general globally, what's kind of the plan there with our network?
Did you hear that, John? You can.
Yeah, globally, what's
I
the
can
plan
answer.
with the network?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, we were already moving. So just last week, we did the first, and it's not a super complex or a super crazy thing that we did, but regular bank money that moves around that takes 4, 5, or 6 days to move liquidity around. We were able to utilize a stable coin and a dollar, just as you would any other dollar. Nothing special about it as far as the front end consumer, other than significantly reduced cost and significantly reduced time to settle, and all of the benefits of traceability, trackability, being able to lock those dollars down, being able to securitize those dollars. This is really working in many countries around the world right now. Like we said, we've got the ability, working on the ability rather, with a couple of the bigger crypto companies like Ripple, like Hedera, to do international settlements in real time, utilizing those networks as intermediary networks, as open intermediary networks. Um, and so, international settlement, international payments, international interoperability of money, it's coming. And the wallet is the new currency exchange. You're no longer going to have the currency exchange booth at the end of the escalator in the airport. You're just going to walk off the plane and have everything you need, have all the interoperability of money in your pocket. And it's going to reduce the amount of middlemen. It's going to reduce the friction of payments. And this is going to be something that happens on these open, distributed, and decentralized ledgers as intermediaries.
Amazing. So let's kind of jump into, what does this mean for financial institutions? Like, how can they start? What are the first steps? Let's talk about, John, since segueing from what you just said, what can a community bank, a credit union, what can
Yeah.
they do today?
The easiest way to get started in these new payment networks and these new payment systems is you got to stop looking at these things as investments. They are not investment tools. They are more like commodities. They're more like payment instruments. um, Certainly, Bitcoin might not be a payment instrument, not in the traditional sense of the term, but if you compare it to a wire, and if you're moving money to El Salvador, maybe Bitcoin is the best way to move money into El Salvador. And so the way that institutions can get easily started, we've got our traditional payment rails that bundle all these payment capabilities, and you can start with a traditional rail, but have all the capabilities there that you can switch on in real time to start to expand out into these traditional rails. We think RTP receive, RTP send, or FedNow receive. They're great, easy ways to turn on with zero risk involved with them. They can be turned on in a few hours with most cores and most digital bankings. And then you have the full capability, capacity to expand from there. As one of the only providers, I think there may be another one or two in the space. As one of the only providers who's got the full capacity to have private networks, public networks, our own networks, other private networks, other public networks like FedNow, like RTP, like Hedera, like Ripple, like Bitcoin. I mean, the list is it's frankly endless, and who knows where it'll be in a year. But you don't have to start there. You don't have to start with the mind-boggling effect of all these different payment networks. You can literally start with turning on a FedNow and RTP receive for a super low cost very quickly, and that's how you get your foot in the door. And then from there you can expand into stablecoin international without having to go out and re-sign or re-engage with another vendor to cobble again together, because that's another thing that these new rail systems are about is the ability to easily consolidate and coalesce all those payment rails into one easy to use, easy to put AI fraud detection mitigation around wrapper. Becky, maybe you and Liz can Andy color in a little more around that.
What I heard is start small, and completely agree. Start small. Start with someone who can do quite a bit of it instead of, we've got, I think a good example right now is like, we used to all joke about like who doesn't have a podcast. Well, now it's like who doesn't have an AI tool. Start with somebody who doesn't just have an AI tool or one tool. They've got a whole network of tools that you're not having to deal with multiple vendors, and then you're just adding more to you and your team's plate. And they're also specialized in it. And then measure often. Know what you're measuring in advance, and then you can just measure often along the way as your members, your customers become more familiar with the product. Andy often will say, just look at an ACH. Just pull a report on your ACHs and see where the funds are going. And you can do that very quickly to see where the funds are coming in and out of. And you can realize that a lot of those funds then can stay within your organization. I just had a sitter over the weekend, and I was saying, oh, can I Venmo you to pay her? And we started talking about this space, and she was like, well, can you just send me funds that way then? Can you just send me crypto? And I had said, oh my, I can't believe I'm not prepared for this moment. She's young. She already is on it. And she knows that that's of value. That's just that's a way that I can pay someone. And you're going to start hearing it all the time, especially from this generation that we're saying, how many times have we said the typical member at a credit union is 53 years old. The average US citizen is 33 years old. That's a massive change. So how are you attracting, you're going to get the question from your board members, how are you attracting these younger generations, and how are you retaining them, and how are you making sure that you're also able to do it with products that are making your credit union money or your bank money so that you can continue to do it. This is it. This is one of the answers. And if a credit union or a bank feels like this might be a little overwhelming, just like John said, starting small, start with one thing and measure often.
That's great. And that kind of segues, what about, education for your customers, for your members? Andy, if you can tell us a little bit about that, because Liz, I think you answered a lot about how you can start big or small. So once you've started, how do you educate your member base, your customer base?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, financial education has been something that's on credit union banks' minds for years, and they've tried to do that in a number of different ways. But typically, what education means, or how I see it play out in many institutions, is a marketing tool, not a education to help them understand the product better. And so, what I think where education plays an important role in this, you not only need to tell a member what this new form of payments ecosystem is, and including FedNow and RTP and real-time payments, but also around crypto. So what Liz and John were talking about a little bit with with crypto, for instance, being a tool for payments. There's if you may have saw earlier this year in May, I think Steak and Shake came out and announced you can now pay for your Steak and Shake with cryptocurrency. There's several state governmental entities around the country, state and local governments that have now said you could pay for state services with cryptocurrency. So in Louisiana, I think they were the first one to do it. So the first transaction, I think, was a fishing license. So someone bought a fishing license with cryptocurrency, right? And so they are becoming increasingly popular and common. And even when some of the oldest and most stubborn organizations and institutions like the government, even when they're accepting payments like this, we have to let members know and our customers know that, hey, there's a number of different ways you can use this. It's not just an investment tool, like John said, but it's this new form of technology has real utility and real daily use. And here's how you can use it. And so we want to bring that education, or we do bring that education, not only to your board and your executive team, but also down to your member level to say, hey, these are some real ways you can use it. These are some use cases, but here's a way you can understand this a little bit better too.
Awesome. Okay, so kind of going into more of the audience questions, I'm going to double check here and see if we have any new ones that have come
Also,
through.
while you're doing that, Sarah, I'll also just touch a little bit on the robo advisor that we are in the process of launching. So how does that get, it's very hard to create a educational material that is disseminatable. And I not to plug my book, but I do talk about in my book quantum education. And what that really means is how do you take an individual's ability to absorb a certain amount of or type of information and then cater the message to that specific individual. And that's what AI is really great at doing, right? Understanding your transactional history, understanding the behavior of your transactions, understanding your engagement with the financial institution. Where are you spending your money? How are you spending your money? That's different. And even the way you engage with that educational material is going to be different. How fast you progress through it, what questions you ask to it. And so education really has to be tailored to the individual. It can't be certainly when we go into a board, we don't teach with AI, but when you start putting these tools in your members' hands and you want to give them education that they can absorb, that individual can absorb, this is another place where having the AI components that we're working on right now, they certainly exist in the fraud space. They certainly exist in our back end systems. They exist as an employee tool that works right alongside you in our Neuron platform. But education, individualized education, is something that I think if you're not looking at and you're looking at the education space, you need to be looking at and you need to be focused on. And that's another way that we're working to differentiate our platforms and solutions to the down into the members' hands.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people don't realize that we do support in member education, marketing tools, anything really that's needed to make sure that it's seamless from a customer perspective, along with the UI, right? We also, think about user experience as well.
Well, and even ensuring that your credit union doesn't have to become experts overnight. How can you move fast and have a team that supports in a white glove, white label way that acts as extensions of your team and that can deliver that experience. So it's not just about delivering a button. Like that's the whole thing is you can't just deliver a button. If you look at that Amazon experience, they aren't just delivering a button for a business for a consumer. They're delivering the entire ecosystem, the delivery of the material, the selling of the material, the payments, all that. And so that's another differentiator that we have is when we deploy that payment experience into the hands of your member, the ability to also supplement with all the back end teams, all the back end processes, whether that's call center, whether that's accounting teams to do all the reconciliation. We bring a complete impact, a complete outcome, results that scale, not that you have to figure out how to scale.
Amazing. So a question came through, which you covered a little bit earlier, Becky, but somebody had a question about how will the payments be regulated? And then it kind of segues into our fraud detection and KYC and everything that we offer. So I wanted to.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys a scenario, a payments scenario, and I'm going to give you a payment scenario today on an ACH, or it could be Zelle, it could be whatever payment rail, FedNow, Send, whatever payment rail for a P2P transaction today, or it could be an ACH origination. So let me talk about ACH origination right now. So in your digital banking, your member says, I want to do an A to A. I want to send $50 from my account here to my account at another institution. Or it could be my mom's account or my son's account or whatever the case may be. And we send, they put in the routing and account number, we send that information. Once that money leaves our institution, we have zero purview into that payment. Did it actually go to the other account on the other side that was really owned by that person, and where did it go from there? We have absolutely no idea. And once the payment's gone, it's gone. Now, yes, there's some Reg E considerations there as it relates to disputes and that sort of thing. But what if we could proactively take a look at where the money was going and alert the sender that they might not want to send it before it actually goes? That capability is not available in any of the traditional payment worlds that we have today. It is 100% possible in the DLT world. So we can take a look, we can scan a wallet where the funds are going, and we can see if it has ever interacted with anything that would be nefarious that we want to stay away from.
Or coming from, right, Becky? Or coming into the institution.
In or out. So that's what John was talking about when he was talking about visibility, right? We can actually see those funds from that wallet to the next wallet to the next wallet to the and on and on and on, forward and backward. We can see where funds came from all the way back to origination. We can see where funds go as long as we want to follow those funds. And so being proactive from a fraud and risk mitigation perspective is something that I think is key to making sure that our members are safe, because those kinds of things are just not possible today.
And it doesn't stop there, right? So we layer other mechanisms, other machine learning, other AI on top of that, so that even when they're in the institution, so being able, we had a scenario a couple weeks back where we hit on a transaction, we looked at history. We had just came into the institution, so it was brand new for us, first time we'd ever seen this member move money. But then we looked back at the 8-month-old history of the member, and what we found out was early on they were doing things like transaction structuring and doing odd behavior at odd times of the day. And our fraud detection and AI picked up on that and would have recommended that at that time that account be closed. Or I think in our rolling credits at the beginning, we showed our facial detection component where we're implementing that into credit unions, where right in the middle of a payment, it's now low cost enough with the evolution of machine learning and compute power and the cost of it, where we can do facial recognition on the identity that was presented when the person first signed up, and we can eliminate the vast majority of account takeovers. So it's a multivariate way that we layer around payments, and this is how the evolution of payments has to be. You have to be monitoring where the payments come from, where it's going to, what the behavior is inside the institution, who are the people sending the money, who are the people receiving the money. This is how you have a safe, comprehensive system where you can move at the speed of life and protect for all those things that happen when you're moving at the speed of life. Because we know when somebody, they're most vulnerable when they're just living their life, when they get a call, when they get a text message. And these are the types of protections that a future payment system has to have to not just be competitive, but to be competitive from a cost perspective and from a fraud mitigation perspective, and for delivering that experience that you want for your ultimate member to have.
All right, wonderful. So I think since we only have about 8 minutes, I want to end on kind of what credit unions, banks can do at this moment. And I'll just kind of open the floor up. I'm going to be sending something over to everyone that's attended, but if you guys can just give any insight, feedback of how they can reach out to us, how they can educate themselves.
Well, I think that you've got two people here who are now authors, and I always will text Becky. I think I listen. I'm a mom. Don't have time to read, so I've listened to her book I think 3 times now, so I could probably. You would think I could recite it, but it does a really nice job of, especially for community and financial credit unions, to compare and contrast what is going on in this space. And it's actually very inspiring. I think it was like the second time through that I was like, this is to me, just, being an even evangelist in the credit union industry, and really truly believing that credit unions are our communities and all those things that I could talk about. But when we look at this technology and this new way, even though John would probably say it's not that new, we've had it around for years. Um, it's I think when credit unions start to understand what the foundation is built on with the DAO, with networks of people who built these, you see that the alliance they have with credit unions. And Becky, you have such a good way of being able to break it down. You said like, all right, stay with me here, and broke it down for all of us to understand what's possible today with ACHs and what's not possible. And as you were saying that, it got me thinking about all the conversations I've had around this fast money movement with my peers, and how scared many are about how quick it can happen and how much fraud can be wrapped around it. But some of that, I had to think, was that because we don't have the control, the human control, processing my exceptions reports, getting the files so that I can have my team process those files in batch every night. Or is it that we just don't know yet? And so it just got me thinking about, some of those controls that we have in place, and how great it is, to John's point, in those layerings that we have available to us to be able to track and trace those things.
Yeah, I agree. Becky's book does an excellent job. I'll plug it too, because I agree. I
I
mean,
haven't read your book yet, John. It's in the mail.
don't you? I didn't reference it just to do that. I was no, but you're absolutely right. I mean, Becky's book. I'll say this. It actually, when I heard her, uh, she knows because she saw me. I was next to her when it happened, but it actually made me cry. And I'm not a big crier. I don't cry a lot, but it did. It made me, because she got, and then this is why I'm so endeared to really everybody on this team, is because everybody on this team understands what this future looks like. It's not a 1 year future. It's not taking advantage of the crypto craze or the AI craze, or wrapping our name with AI or wrapping our name with crypto to try to remain relevant. This is really a transformation of what's going to happen. I mean, Becky, how many people have reached out, like asking us if we can do peer-to-peer loans where people are able to, which is why a credit union was invented,
Yeah.
right? And this is why DeFi has been invented. And this is what our whole team believes in and understands, is that this is a transformation, a long-term transformation. And I do agree. I think Becky's book outlines it perfectly, the vision for the next 7 to 10 years of where credit unions can start now, simply with things that give them the edge now. But as we move into, because I'll get a little bit philosophical right now, but what we really believe at our foundation of our core, is that just how social media disrupted traditional media, this is social finance. This is a new way of decentralized, regulatable finance that's going to come in, and the only institutional framework that is capable of delivering upon the promise of decentralized finance is a credit union. I'm sure other people have coined the term before me, but credit unions in my book are analog DeFi, and they work with systems that give them the ability to deliver. I talk to people all the time. I'm like, where'd you get your loan from? Oh, I got it from a credit union. Oh, well, why do you think that is? Why did you choose that over another institution? Well, it's because the motives are different, right? it's owned by the people, and that's the promise of DeFi. And so we believe that there's no other institutional framework, regulated institutional framework worldwide, that can embrace and bring this future forward like the credit union movement will do, because we're going to make that happen. We are making it happen. And that's probably the most exciting part. And yes, Becky's book, I'll talk about it for her. Thank you, Liz, for bringing that up, but it outlines that future perfectly.
I wrote the book to re-energize this movement.
Yeah.
So I call it a financial renaissance because I do believe we're in a renaissance period, and credit unions have a very strong grassroots movement, and now it's time to get people organized. And the DeFi crowd, we should be arm in arm in this effort. So moving forward together.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to the team for answering these questions. We're going to hopefully meet next around crypto and something new that's going to be coming soon. I won't give too much of a preview, but yeah, thank you guys so much. If you have any other questions, feel free to still send them in. We'll get back to you, and we'll send a recording out to everybody that attended.
Thank you guys.
Well,
Thank you so
have a good
much.
one.